This is Sleep Fader, where mindfulness, music, stories, and sound design come together to remix your inner dialogue, bring down the stress levels, and dial in your best sleep. Hey, it's Jeff. Welcome back to Sleep Fader and part 2 of the Moonwalk chapter. I don't usually talk very much about the story while we're here in the studio lounge, but since this part of the story is a little different, I think it's worth mentioning that part 1 of Moonwalk can be heard in episode 8. You can listen to Sleep Fader in episode order or in any order you like. Every episode is designed with the same basic formula for good rest, which goes something like this. First, we'll spend a few minutes in the lounge, where I'll talk a little and play some music while you get settled in. Then I'll tell you the next part of our evolving story. At the end of the story, relaxing sounds will slowly fade to silence while you drift off. For now, we're just going to ease into this idea of shutting down the busy day. We'll start right here in the lounge, which is a quiet and comfortable place. For me, that means a microphone and my favorite headphones, sitting in my favorite chair and being surrounded by all of my instruments. Guitars, basses, keyboards, percussion. I've got it all within arm's reach. For you, this might be your bed or a cozy couch. Wherever you go when it's time to stop moving. Go ahead and make any necessary adjustments. We've got time. Words, music, and sound for Sleep Fader are written, composed, produced, and engineered by yours truly. For now, Sleep Fader is ad-free. If you like what you're hearing and it helps you rest, support the show by subscribing at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you love to listen. Visit sleepfader.com for more. I'm always grateful when listeners go out of their way to tell me about their experiences with Sleep Fader, especially when they tell me that it's genuinely helping them to relax and rest. Some of you have shared very encouraging feedback lately. Through your ratings via email and messages, your stories about how the show has helped ease racing thoughts at bedtime, or helped relieve tension, or even pain, have been really rewarding. Many thanks to all of you for that encouragement, and thanks to all of you who are giving Sleep Fader a try. I've heard from some listeners that they enjoy this time in the lounge, and it seems like most people have their own unique image of just how the lounge looks, how it feels for them. And that's great to hear, because that means less thinking and worrying and more imagining. Because for most of us, this is the first time in our day where we're really able to press pause on all the things that keep us busy and moving and thinking. Our bodies are ready to sit back and take a breather, but our minds can sometimes take a little longer to get with the program. And that's fine. As always, I've prepared some music for this part of the show. Just a few minutes of audio space, something to help prep your mind and body for relaxation. And as always, while the music plays, I'll encourage you to try and rest your attention on the sounds, to try and notice the different layers of instruments, and maybe try to find one sound in particular to follow along. It could be the guitar, or one of the drum sounds. Any sound will do. And if your mind wanders, which it often likes to do, that's fine too. Just try to notice when that happens. Take a slow, deep breath. And as you let it out, bring your attention back to any sound that catches it. Nice and easy. All right. I think we're ready to unwind now and get back to our story. It's fair to say that we've come a long way together to get where we are now. From one shoreline to another. We've traveled by train, by automobile, and by other means that defy any kind of traditional description. We've journeyed through sound, time, and even space, following our story wherever it leads. We've walked a lot, observed up close and from afar, and picked up odd items and no small number of questions. I can't say whether we'll find any conclusive answers, but I can say that I've been glad for your company along the way. My guitar case jostles a bit as I walk. It isn't very heavy. The guitar inside is parlor size. For the uninitiated, that means it's a bit smaller than a typical acoustic guitar. A little shallower, a bit narrower in the waist. Way back in 2013, a Canadian astronaut aboard the International Space Station played a parlor guitar while performing Bowie's Space Oddity. I must have watched that YouTube clip 100 times. And that's when I went out in search of a parlor guitar of my own. My search didn't last very long, as it turned out. I'd emailed a link to the Space Oddity video to my uncle, along with some passing mention of my newfound interest in diminutive acoustic guitars. My uncle's taste leaned more toward Count Basie than Major Tom, but I knew he'd get a kick out of the singing astronaut. A few days later, he emailed me back. When I arrived in Syracuse, I should check in at the post office on Teal Ave. I was on the road then, of course, and I still don't remember sharing my travel itinerary with my uncle. Anyway, his note said there'd be something waiting for me at my next stop, and sure enough, there was. I didn't open the package until I'd arrived back at the Holiday Inn, the inevitable landing pad for all road musicians. I like an out-of-the-way rural Holiday Inn best. I mean the kind that the executives probably wish they could root out of the American highway system altogether, if only they hadn't somehow lost track of them in the 70s. Low brick buildings that still have that familiar emerald green marquee with swooping cursive letters, a light-up Sputnik star on top, and a big yellow arrow pointing the way toward safe haven. The Holiday Inn brand people call it the Great Sign, and I think it deserves the title. When you pull into one of those places, if you don't look too closely, you can still get a taste of that space-age optimism. It's usually followed by a taste of stale coffee from an ancient Bun-O-Matic in the lobby, and by then some of that American Dream Instagram filter will have faded a bit. That's progress for you. By the time I was settled into my room again, I'd already formed a good idea of what was in the box. Hand any veteran string slinger a blank, nondescript package with a guitar in it, and they can tell what's inside just by the weight and balance. Needless to say, I was pretty excited to see what my uncle had sent. He'd shipped it in the case, the one jostling at my shoulder now, which in and of itself was a hell of a nice gift. A high-end guitar case is kind of like a designer wallet, or a really expensive jacket. It's not something you buy for yourself easily, but oh man, it's nice when you have one. Tucked into the accessory pocket on the front was a yellow envelope. It's tradition in my family to always open the card first when receiving a gift, so even though I was alone in a hotel room with no one watching, that's what I did. The card was from a familiar stash that my uncle had been mining for years. He had a whole box of them, a collection of portraits of the greats, Louie and Ella, Sonny Stitt, Max Roach. This one was a stark black and white of Charlie Christian, a giant in early bebop and jazz guitar. In the photo, Charlie's expression is one of pure focus and joy. Inside, my uncle had written a brief message. "Hey kid, it's a good idea to have a guitar you can take anywhere. If you ever come to a river that's too wide to cross, just write yourself a bridge." My uncle, man, he was really something else. I unzipped the case and pulled out the guitar. No brand name, but it was definitely old. I probably played for 2 hours straight, sitting there on the edge of a saggy old Holiday Inn mattress. By the time I'd looked up, the room had gone dark and my stomach was growling. Time loses all meaning when you find a new guitar that's meant to be yours, and I guess my uncle had known that this one would be a good fit. I don't know how he knew, but he knew. All of this comes back to me now in a rush of sensory memory as I walk the shore of the Great Basin with the soft and mossy ground cover cushioning my footsteps. To my right, the cloud-filled crater pulses with occasional flashes of muted blue light. All around me, an inexplicable landscape littered with grand spheres and domes, a game board of giant proportions. Above me, a blackness so deep and impenetrable that the millions upon millions of stars within it can only play at illuminating the infinite. And before me, just ahead of me, too distant to be seen clearly, but close enough that I can discern their forms, 2 figures moving in my direction. My sneakers make shallow impressions in the violet moss that are neatly refilled as quickly as they're made. I kneel down to observe. The moss isn't as plant-like as it seems. It's made up of minute crystalline structures that link together to form a responsive amethyst ground cover. I place an open hand on the ground in front of me and push. There's a soft feeling crunch beneath my palm, and when I raise my hand, new crystals form and converge like a sheen of frost over fresh fallen snow. Only the air here, that impossible atmosphere I've been breathing, is warm, humid even, though it may be only my imagination filling the gap between the warmth and that lingering, sighing wind that I can't actually feel. The light bursts below the nebulous surface of the crater have increased in frequency. Each dull blue eruption is accompanied by a gentle timpani, not unlike thunder. But not much like thunder either. If it's a storm of some kind, it's not a very scary one. The 2 figures are closer now, close enough for me to admit to myself what I've known from the moment I spotted them. They are, in fact, very much like the mother and daughter that I encountered on the beach all those weeks ago. The tall one walks in long, elegant strides, and the smaller one dances around her, childlike. Certainly one could call them humanoid. They carry themselves on 2 legs, and 2 arms swing at their sides as naturally as my own. Their heads are ovular in human-like proportion to their long, slender bodies. Beyond these few surface-level observations, my ability to liken these two entities to human beings falters. We are within a dozen or so paces of each other when I realize that what I thought were flowing fabrics are fluid, cape-like fields of light that cling and conform to their bodies as they move. The taller of the two, I can't help but think of her as the mother, emanates a pale turquoise, the daughter a complementary coral. We meet on the shore of the Great Basin, each of us standing in quiet observation. Beneath the crater's billowing haze, the light bursts and their drum-like accompaniment oscillate, slow and steady. The mother, if that's who or what she is, steps forward and bends down to level her eyes with mine. I recognize the colors there. Her eyes are like jades, a rich yellow, the yellow of dandelions and Holiday Inn signs, and they throb in gentle synchrony with the light storm. She holds my gaze for a moment, and something behind my eyes shifts. I feel it in the same way that I feel the recognition of a song's key signature or harmony. It comes to me as a kind of agreement, a knowing between us. She steps back, and I recognize via the hues of their light capes that mother and daughter are welcoming me here. I've been expected. A gently cascading pattern of royal blue ensures me that all is well. We're meant to palaver here. I open my mouth to speak, but I'm hesitant. This silent dialogue feels familiar. I'm reminded of my first meeting with the shopkeep. The girl stares up at me with golden, wondering eyes. Her coral cape dissolves into a vibrant tangerine hue and displays an animated pattern of intersecting concentric circles, a perfect echo of the rippling motif made by the shopkeep's skipping monocle. I can't help but smile. I unshoulder my guitar case and lay it down on the bed of crystal. Kneeling, I zip open the case and look down at my uncle's gift. We've come a long way together, this guitar and I. I stand up and slip the worn leather strap over my head. Beneath the slow rolling mist of the Great Basin, the light storm conducts a steady tempo. The stage is set. The curtain is drawn, and now, even here, it's time to play. Our improvisation goes on for some time. A conversation made of light and sound. As it is with any musical dialogue, we take equal care listening to and watching each other, responding in turn with a considered balance of information and expression. We exchange stories while simultaneously creating a new one. I tell them about my uncle and his home by the sea. My home now. I tell them about my many years of traveling and about all of the unusual things that I've seen, about the in-between places, and about the momentum of chance events that have drawn me here to this moon, to this moment. It is a wordless exchange. I play my story on the parlor guitar, surprising myself with this new and uncanny ability. As I play, my companions offer a nuanced accompaniment of hues and gradients, geometric patterns and pulses. They've also experienced a life of constant motion. They're nomadic by nature. I learned that their work is the heart of their culture. They are the architects and engineers of this place, and many more like it. The domes and the satellites upon which they're found are physical interfaces designed to connect what would otherwise be isolated cultures. They express this idea as bridging, and I'm struck again by the memory of my uncle's note. Write yourself a bridge, he'd said. And wasn't that exactly what I'd been doing? There is a comfortable lull, and I sense that it's time to close the curtain, for now. But before it's drawn, I have one more question. Where exactly are you from? Where is your home? Their light capes erupt in unison, a brilliant loop of aquamarine and cobalt blue to telegraph their answer. All is home. All is home. All is home. I pack and shoulder my guitar, and my companions guide me back to my dome, silently. We move at an easy pace over the cushiony violet moss, past the swaying, iridescent grass, and back out into the chalky, arid hardscape. We arrive at the dome's open doorway where Vera waits, sphinx-like. The idea comes to me then like a whisper, and in my uncle's voice. I reach into my pocket and find what I'm looking for easily. I know the shape and weight of it well. I kneel down and present my offering to my new young friend. She takes the World's Fair button from my hand, and her light cape reflects the colors of the silver spike and ball, the royal blue sky, the crimson ring. She shimmers again with flickering, joyous gratitude, and in the distance, I see the unmistakable shape of the Trilon Tower, out there among the colossal spheres, the bridges that dot the moon's landscape. A new piece has been added to the game board. With a melodic meow and a deep stretch, Vera curls herself between my legs. It's time to go. Back through the door and over the threshold of the unknown.